o'clock. We're going to try and get started here on time. Today is the next step in the City Council's process for filling the vacant District 4 council seat. 5 candidates have been invited to participate in interviews today. After today's interviews, the final step will be to elect one of the 5 candidates as the council member representing District 4 for the remainder of the term. That election will be part of the council's regular agenda this Tuesday, September 12th. The new council member will assume office on September 29th. We'll use a structured interview process today. With the structured interview, the council will ask each question an identical set of questions, each candidate an identical set of questions. This gives the candidates equal opportunities to provide information, and it gives the council the opportunity to evaluate the candidates' responses to those identical questions. Also, because it is a structured interview, council members will not be able to customize questions or ask any follow-up questions at this time. While this does eliminate some back and forth dialogue of the interviews, it is essential to ensure that the candidates respond to all the same questions. The interview will include 8 questions and be limited to 30 minutes, and we'll stick strictly to that time frame. The order of the interviews was determined by a random drawing this morning. Our first interview this morning will be with Gary Garnett, followed by Ron Hugg, Terry Blackburn, Eric Sevignon, and concluding with Rebecca Barrientos-Patlin. So now I'll ask staff if they can bring in Mr. Garnett, and we'll begin the interview process. Morning. Welcome, Mr. Garnett. We appreciate you being here today to interview for the District 4 Council seat. I'll give you a little idea about how we're going to conduct today's interview, which I think you've already been, it's already been presented to you, but just as a reminder, we're using a structured interview process today. With the structured interview, the council will ask each candidate an identical set of questions. Council members will only ask questions from the structured conversational nature of some interviews, but this approach ensures consistency in the interview and ensures each candidate responds to the same set of questions. The interview consists of 8 questions that have been provided to candidates ahead of time. It is a timed interview, so we'll be limited to 30 minutes, and we'll stick strictly to that time frame. But I believe you'll find this an adequate amount of time to answer the questions. So if you're ready to proceed, I'll begin with the first question. All right, great. And the first question is my question to get things started. And that is, I'd like you to describe your familiarity, involvement, and/or support of some of the major city-involved projects in District 4, along with some of the projects being funded at the state level.
Well, first of all, I think I should say that I do support the capital improvement projects that are happening in District 4, especially with the infrastructure, street repair, ADA ramp installation, curb replacement, all of those desperately needed. As far as one of our favorite places in South Omaha, the Mo River wastewater treatment plant, it has its troubles at times, so it's constantly in repair, improvement stages, and they consume a different type of funding, both from local, state, and federal. And moving westward, the projects that I know about presently, 42nd and D Street, C to D bridge replacement. That has a mixture of funding attached to that. In various stages of planning and design, 72nd D Bridge, 38th and L, 72nd and L Street. All those are in different stages within that framework, and different buckets of money coming in to pay for those. timeframes range from now up until, I believe, 2029, if my information is correct. I guess I'm an avid park supporter, if you will. Have a passion for kids and families that like to go out and recreate, and we should be able to provide them a good place to do that. And I think South Omaha has their fair share. When I served before, we were able to do a renovation of all 16 parks in District 4. And the Parks Department's plan at that time was to review every park every 15 to 16 years. So I'm sure that they're probably in that process now, and hopefully some of District 4's parks are in that rotation. Just a couple examples of state funding to currently the Miguel Keith Memorial Park down on 30th and Y Street is getting the South Omaha Historical Grant funding, and presently using that. They have their report coming up September or October or November of this year. And in various stages of planning and design, Hitchcock Pool Park area, Albright Park have I think they're in the design stage now for some improvements there. I'd like to think that along with the projects that are funded at the state level, that we look at other avenues. Just as an example, I mentioned when I was talking about the bridges, there's the funds that are funneled to the state. It's called the Bridge Buyback Program, or Bridge Buyback Fund. That I would certainly make it a goal to utilize those funds more than what we are now according to the Capital Improvement Program. So with that, I would end in saying that I also think that an additional helicopter for the police air unit is a must, not just for District 4, but citywide, because I can tell you from experience that piece of equipment is a force multiplier. And right now, with being about 90 officers short in public safety on the police side, that would certainly be an investment long-term.
Thank you. Next question will be asked by Councilmember Milton.
Yes, as a council member, there are considerable demands on your time. You will receive numerous invitations to neighborhood meetings and other events, often on nights and weekends, as well as full days of council business on Tuesdays. Please discuss how you would balance these demands with your personal and professional life while still being responsive to your constituents.
Well, there's a line in a country music song that goes, my dog's gone, my truck's gone, my girlfriend's gone. Bottom line, I got the time. And that's kind of where it's been for me. My family is gone. I have one brother left out in Utah. I have proven that I can overcome the challenges of the time responsibility. I've done that over and over during my first tenure in this chamber and outside of this chamber as well. So it would be not a problem for me to attend meetings that are outside of this facility, get back into contact with the Alliance, the various neighborhood associations that are in District 4, and making sure that that conduit that I established back my first go-around is still intact, and repair anything that might need to be rejuvenated.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gary, thank you for taking time out of your schedule today to interview for this important position that we have in front of us.
Thank you.
Could you please provide a situation where you applied the following concepts: diversity, equity, and inclusion? And then after that, would you share the outcomes of that situation?
The District 4 is definitely diverse. I mean, we have Sudanese, Latinos, Somalians, Asians, just to name a few. We have a melding pot, if you will. Even the American Legion Post is titled that as the melding pot of South Omaha. I've been fortunate to bring some focus groups together when I was campaigning back in the early 2000s that were diverse and helped with what folks thought at first was going to be a language barrier, and it turned out that it wasn't. We found a way to communicate. Might have taken a little bit longer, but we found a way to communicate, and contrary to what you might hear today, we got things done. Now, does that mean government stops after you finish the project? Absolutely not. It's fluid, it's ongoing. There's going to be changes, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. I kind of refer to it as a cardiac line. We have some good times, we have some bad times, and go back and forth. And you have to remain available for all of those that effect, but we also have to keep in mind that this is the legislative body of government, not the day-to-day operation side on the administrative branch of government. We legislate. I had a lady that was in my ear for 16 years, and whatever went wrong in her life, she wanted an ordinance written. My husband's lazy, he won't get off the couch and cut the grass. I can't legislate him off the couch. That sounds like a therapy problem to me. But I was able to use a wide variety of individuals that live in Omaha to come down and help with making sure that I was doing what I needed to be doing. And these concepts, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I guess I could sum up quite simply that we should be able to address each one of these fairly when writing city policy. That's how I would see it. Now, could it be a little more complicated than that when you get into the legalese part of it? Yes. But remember, and all of you do, that you have a law department, you have a human rights and relations department, and I guess we should keep in mind now that we have this artificial intelligence thing going around the country now. How are we going to address that as well? So I would be acceptance to the challenge on any of these. What we have to keep in mind that we shouldn't step out of our legislative side and try to be on the operations side. That's the two distinctive things that we should keep in mind here today, and as we go on and whoever you select. So to give you the outcome of the groups that I was able to bring together was, one would be, we're still in communique. Two, one of the individuals, a young Latino girl, woman now, got into politics, and she was able to start, moved to New York City and was able to start 2 nonprofits there. And she accredits that mentoringship that I gave her this opportunity to do something that she really loves. And so I think that wasn't just an outcome here in Omaha, it made it all the way to the East Coast, if you will. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Good morning, Mr. Gurnett.
Good morning.
Considering the issues that can be influenced by city government, what do you believe are the most important current and future issues in District 4 and the city as a whole?
In District 4, I would say housing, public safety, and transportation. And I would actually go as far as saying I would rank those in that order as well. Housing, public safety, and transportation. As a city, as a whole, property taxes, infrastructure, and public safety. Depending upon who you ask and at the time of the year, I would think those under the umbrella of city as a whole fluctuate a little bit, kind of pass over one another, again, depending upon who you ask. That would be my response.
Mr. Rowe.
As a council member, you would represent District 4, but your votes would affect all citizens of Omaha. Describe how you would balance effectively representing District 4 constituents and contributing to policy decisions that affect all Omahans.